We'll just give it a minute for everyone to come in from the waiting room. Good morning. This is an emergency hearing before the Licensing Board for the City of Boston. Today is Monday, January 25th, 2021. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing will be recorded and will be posted on the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I am Chair of the Licensing Board. Today we're joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I will read each item into the record. When I call the item for which you're representing the licensee, please ensure that your audio and video is working. After I read the notice into the record, I will ask who is present for the licensee, and then subsequently who is present for the Boston Police Department, after which I will ask if there are other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident. All parties will be sworn in. At that time, the police report will be read into the record, after which the licensee will have the opportunity to make a statement and the chairwoman and commissioners will ask questions. Calling Schiaffo Inc., doing business as Carmelinas, located at 307 to 309 Hanover Street. This is the holder of a CV 7-day all alcoholic beverages license. The incident date is January 18th, 2021. The notice of the hearing was issued January 18th, 2021. The description of the incident is failure to adhere to the governor's or executive order and the board's advisory limiting capacity to 25% of total seating capacity, excluding staff. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Damian DiPaola. I'm also the owner of the restaurant.
Thank you. Who on behalf of the Boston Police Department will be testifying?
I will be.
Detective Hernandez. And are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Seeing none, Mr. DiPaolo, Detective Hernandez, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Detective, you can proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'm going to be reading from a police report which I wrote on Monday, January 18, 2021 at about 8:49 p.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, were performing checks of bars and restaurants during the COVID-19 emergency. While walking into Carmelina's restaurant located at 307 Hanover Street, detectives noted that the establishment appeared to be over their capacity. Detectives asked the staff what the count of patrons located inside the establishment was. Staff members stated he did not have a count of patrons. Detectives learned that the capacity for the premise is set at 39 persons. Detective Hernandez performed a count of the establishment. Detectives discovered that the actual amount of patrons seated inside the premise was 22 patrons. Detectives reiterated the importance of the governor's COVID guidelines and Boston's Licensing Board advisory on the current prohibition of more than 25% of overall capacity of the licensed premise. The reduced capacity for this establishment would be 10 patrons. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Gianno Marcelli. Mr. Marcelli stated that he would bring the establishment's capacity into compliance. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 024094. This notice was for failure to adhere to the governor's COVID guidelines and Boston's Licensing Board advisory on the prohibition of more than 25% of the overall capacity of a licensed premise, overcrowding of the establishment. Mr. Moseri signed for and accepted the notice. It should be noted that an emergency hearing, license premise hearing notice was given to Mr. Moseri. The hearing will be held on Monday, January 25th, 2021. That's all.
Thank you, Detective. Mr. DiPaolo, would you like to make a statement before the chairwoman and commissioners ask questions?
Yeah. I mean, as most of you may know, with via emails or neighborhood liaisons, we've always been good citizens, and we followed each and every rule starting from day one. We also went through the pains of dividers to make it even more socially distanced, even more comfortable for people. So this basically was a misunderstanding and a miscommunication between me and Jono, who's that evening was the supervisor. He had been out of work for over a month or so, and I'm in North Carolina at my sister's, and there was a miscommunication. He thought that he was okay with the dividers, But now he knows that, unfortunately, I guess the dividers don't mean anything anymore. They're just hanging there. And, we're taking our lumps in the North End. And, it really stinks, but I know you're following governor's orders, so I'm not arguing anything. But, the reality of it is that a lot of the smaller places are really hurting. So if any of you have anyone's ear, let them know that the smaller places that have gone through dividers and all this stuff, that we can't compete with the big boys that have a capacity of 600.
Mr. DiPaolo, I'm just going to jump in here, and I do appreciate the fact every time we've had an emergency hearing for the North End, you have been very understanding of our role as regulators, and I do appreciate that. But that this is a public health crisis, correct?
Yeah, I do know it.
These are not guidelines that this board or this mayor came up with. These are the governor's guidelines, and it's our role to enforce them and to regulate them.
Yes, I understand that. As I said,
this is your role as the owner to educate your staff. You put their livelihood at risk, and you've risked your annual liquor license by not communicating better with your staff. It's simple math. It has 25% capacity.
Yes.
It's very difficult. We sympathize with you, but it's our job to regulate them. These are unusual hearings to have the Monday after a weekend. And this is because these are considered real violations of public health guidelines.
Correct. So all I wanted just to state a case, not for, not to argue what's going on, but, it's just you guys probably hear it from everyone. And I don't want this to just be a formal, banging. I understand what I did. I apologize. I made it very clear to Jono and very clear to the entire staff.
Okay, thank you.
And I wish I was there when it happened, to be quite honest with you.
Detective Hernandez, the report says that they said they would bring the establishment's capacity into compliance. Did you see them do that right away?
Well, they had all their tables. I mean, the tables that they had were full. So I think they were just not going to let anybody else in and just slowly let it trickle out. We weren't going to throw anybody out.
Okay. Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
I have nothing yet. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Is there a motion to take a vote on this matter at this time?
I make a motion to take a vote on this matter at this time.
Is there a second?
I second.
Commissioner Curran seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None in opposition. The vote carries. Chairwoman Joyce?
I make a motion for a warning for this establishment. And I'd also like to note for the record that any further code violations will result in the suspension of this license.
I agree.
All parties are in agreement. This is a warning, and written notice of this warning will be issued promptly. As the chairwoman noted, any future violation will result in additional disciplinary action. Thank you all very much. That is the only item before the board today.
Thank you.
Thank you.